And
I know. We're live. We're back on the interweb.
bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour. I'm calling from outside of Paris today at a friend's house. When she has 2 levels, you can tell I'm not in a Parisian apartment because there's a staircase. And tonight's the big game. Claudine had to remind me, actually.
I have my scarf all ready to go.
Yes. Look at you.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Those colors are your colors, so you should.
I know. It's perfect. And it's got gold in there. It's all shiny.
It's so pretty.
But I was like, I got to get one of those. It was like one of my first or second trips. And then it ended up being like, I of course bought it like off of the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah.
So it was like 30 euros. I was like, what?
How much are they normally?
I don't know. That just seemed like a lot to me.
Yeah, it's a lot. Phyllis and Danielle, thank you for being here. Good to see you.
And I'm sure Natalie's there too. Hi, Phyllis, Natalie, Danielle.
All our lovely ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys going to watch the game? I know Claudine's going to watch the game. I'm not a big sports person, so I'm kind of like, meh. I didn't even know it was happening today.
I love any excuse that I have something, that's French.
Yeah, of course.
I do love watching European soccer, I should say.
I'm a rugby girl myself. I like clothing and the padding down. Natalie, Roma, good to see you guys.
Hi, girls.
It's so good to see
all of our favorite people.
Yes, our lovely. We look amazing. Thank you. I blame the good lighting here. This is the good lighting I got.
And we're color coordinated.
We are. I'm wearing blue. You're red.
Yeah.
We're pale. We're very red, white, and blue. It works for France and America. We're patriots in both countries. Claudia's like, not me. Never mind America. We are talking about the women of the revolution. Well, not the revolution, kind of the protection of France, really, war times.
The resistance.
Yeah, the resistance today. Women protecting France, saving art, saving people. This is a fascinating topic because these women, no one really knows about, as usual.
It is, and it's very sad because there's quite a few of them. You'll find out in, I think, my first question, how the very few of them really got attention for what they did. Even a lot of them still to this day. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, we talk about some of them in the podcast that get full episodes, like Rose Valland. But a lot of them I didn't know anything about. Claudine brings all these wonderful people into my life. Good to see you, Catherine.
Hey, Catherine. Yes, I keep, and then doing research for some of the ladies on this, I just find, I'm like, oh, she needs a whole episode. Oh, this one needs a whole episode. So there's some pretty fascinating ladies.
Yeah, the ladies of the resistance. And they were so brave. And some of them were so smart, like the photographic memory. We even have a nun involved in the show today, a nun who was saving people.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. What crazy times, war times. I mean, everyone was doing what they could to survive. But to help others was even more dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, just especially, what Rose did, she put herself in jeopardy every single day. You know, if the Germans found out what she had been doing, they would have killed her immediately.
Yeah. She was working like right next to them. She was working basically for them, but not voluntarily. I mean, she was kind of forced into it. So I'm wondering how many of these ladies you guys will know today, who you've heard of, who you've not heard of. But do we want to give a rundown of who we're talking about, or are we just gonna okay?
So some names you are gonna know because I added a couple very famous women in there that also did a few things. But there's Marie-Helene Lefaucheux, Helen. I don't want to give anything away too much about them though ahead of time. But Helen Stadler, Cecile Rol-Tanguy, Marie-Madeleine Fourcade, and then, of course, Rose Valland, Jospehine Baker, Edith Piaf.
Yeah, Edith Piaf was involved in the resistance as well. And I was always surprised that Jospehine Baker was involved. I love what she did. Her part is my favorite part of the whole trivia. So as usual, we will ask you ladies and gentlemen some questions and you give us your best guess. I mean, no guess is a dumb guess. We're all learning together.
It's all for fun.
Yeah.
There's no grades at the end unless,
Unless you want to be hard on yourself. Claudine can send you the exam later if you'd like.
Yes, it'll be a full written exam afterwards.
I think I could pass after reading your notes. I have all the answers, so it's not fair.
Maybe I'll switch it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe I should be the one guessing as well. Claudine sent me all the information. I'm lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Jospehine, yes, Jospehine Baker. All right, so Claudine, do you want to give us the first question?
Yes. So the very first question was, how many women did Charles de Gaulle name in his list of 1,038 heroes of the resistance after the war?
All right, so Charles de Gaulle is naming over 1,000 people. How many women do we think are on that list for being war heroes? I mean, my guess would be not a lot. We're talking about female war heroes. Just throw out any number out of 1,000, over 1,000 people. How many do you think were women that were marked as war heroes in France? Which this number was striking to me. I was like, really?
Mm-hmm. Catherine.
Danielle's guessing 100. Phyllis is 1 or 2. Catherine's 27. She's going in the middle there. I like the stamps with the class pass. It's a good idea. That's like a gym membership.
I can send you little stars in the mail. You can put them in your little,
Yeah, exactly. I miss those star stickers. Those were my favorite growing up.
Good job.
Yeah, do they even do that in school anymore?
I don't know. I think they give them to everybody now.
Yeah, everybody's a winner.
Everybody's a winner.
So out of 1,000 people, over 1,000 people, how many women were listed as war heroes by Charles de Gaulle? Roma's guessing 6. I mean, I like these numbers, ladies. And we know they were not very high numbers, of course. It was not, we weren't getting very much credit back then.
No. They don't get a whole lot now either still for what they did.
Yeah.
Sadly. Well, the lucky winner, Roma, you guessed perfectly. Only 6 women.
6 women out of over 1,000.
Yeah. So he named right afterwards. He did a big event and named that 1,038 resistance leaders, and only 6 of them are women. None of which we will talk about today.
Wow.
Which is pretty sad too, because the women that we'll talk about today did some pretty amazing things, and not one of them was named.
It makes you really wonder that. I mean, did the information not get passed around that these women did what they did, or did men just not care?
I mean, it was a very, you had to be very secretive and care. It wasn't like you were walking down the street, carrying a banner saying "I'm in the resistance," against the Germans. So, yeah, maybe, but I would think over time it would be a little bit better. But
yeah, have more been added over the years? That's a good question, Catherine.
Not to his original list, but of course, like over the years, many of the, and a few of the women we'll talk about today were given, the Légion d'honneur awards, and they were actually, they have been recognized over time. But at that time, when he did that, when they first did, he did a reception at the Hotel de Ville, and there was only one woman there, and it was because she was there with her husband, and she's one of the ones we'll talk about today. Yeah,
definitely. Very low. 6 poor ladies who risked their lives. There were many more.
Yeah, and they were, the women were able, in a lot of ways, to kind of, sneak through things, because they weren't, they weren't suspected as much, and they were able to change their appearance. They could change their hair and their color, and they could hide things in baby buggies and things like that. So they actually were able to do they were able to actually get a little bit more accomplished just because they weren't seen as, somebody that was a factor in it.
Yeah. Not a threat, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like women can't fight wars, basically.
Yes.
All right. Next question. Good job, Roma.
Good job, Roma. That was a very good guess. Those are all very good guesses. And it's very sad that I wish it was more like 100, Danielle, but, okay, next question. How many pieces of art did Rose Valland save from the German hands?
All right. So Rose Valland, we did a podcast about her. How much art did she save from the Germans? Very good question.
It's a lot more than 6.
Yeah. Let's go higher with this one, guys. How much art
higher
was saved by Rose Valland from the Germans. The Germans were coming in, taking all the art. Hitler loved art, and he was making his own collection for Germany, and he was just stealing all the art. And Rose Valland came in and was hiding it from him and saving some of the most treasured pieces that we see today, actually.
Yes. Yeah. He kind of, in the podcast, we mentioned it, that he actually was using, he had a bunch of art historians create a list of like the best pieces of art in Europe that he should want, basically telling him, Hitler, this is what you want to get. And then he kind of ended up, if you see that, it ends up actually kind of being his route in through Europe. So
really?
He wanted to amass all of this art and create a huge museum in Linz that was just going to be basically all of, the most perfect art in the world that he believed was perfect.
I just love how he had to have other people tell him what was the art that he wanted. It just shows how much he knew.
Yeah. Well, he was a frustrated artist himself.
I know. If somebody would have just given him like a good art class, bought one of his paintings, maybe we could have avoided a lot of things.
Yeah, told him that his art was, fantastic and great. Maybe we would have.
Yeah, Hitler just needed a hug, guys. He needed a hug. Belinda, welcome. Thank you for coming. We're talking about how much art did Rose Valland save from Hitler. She was taking the French art and hiding it so the Germans did not steal it, which they did steal a lot of art.
A lot.
So Phyllis is guessing over 1,000 pieces. I think that's a good guess. Danielle, 10,000, sticking with round numbers. Like that idea. Roma saying thousands. Previous talks. I like the memory, Roma.
Good job. Did you study up? Did everybody study up before this?
Yeah. Maybe we should do the report cards.
My friend Debbie asked, do I need to study for this?
Yeah. She was ahead of them. Definitely. Rose Valland was a smart woman. And also something very fascinating that we'll learn about her in the trivia, which helped her as well, that we'll talk about later.
Yes. So, in fact, it was more than 60,000 pieces of art.
60,000.
60,000. And 45,000 which made its way back into France. So they ended up getting, there was as much that was taken. A lot of it they did end up getting back. And was able to get to a lot of the owners. There was still about 13,000 pieces that were unclaimed. And most of that art now is in the different French national museums. So I should actually post this again. I made a video at the Louvre in January, and there's 2 small rooms that are the MNR rooms, which is where they've put the art that's in the custody of the state of France. So, and then they have a whole group of people that are basically carrying on what Rose did, doing restitution and trying to find the owners. So they're all in the Louvre. There's only about 296 of them on display in the Louvre, even though that there's more, there's about 1,000, but then they have them all throughout France in different museums.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You always know that it's one of those because on the plaques it says M and R, and then it has a number, and then it says, when it was basically came in, like it's usually in the 1950, 1951, it came back into, it went into the museums, and they have over in the last 10 years, they've returned 50 more pieces of art to families because there have been people. Yeah, but there's now it's, it's 76 years later after, the liberation. So it's been a long time. And even there's I went down a deep rabbit hole the other day.
You went to the dark net, guys.
Yeah. The Rose Valland, there's the Rose Valland website is basically the keeping of all of her information. And so it's also where you could go in there and you could take the number that you see on the plaque at the Louvre, like, MNR 394. You go on this website and it basically had in there, like, this was purchased by, Madame, Clicquot. And then it was sold at the Drouot auction house on this date, at this date, so they have like this provenance of all of this art, but then at one point it just stops because then it was stolen by the Germans, taken out. But before that, you know, it would move to somebody else. So it's really fascinating. But the French government and the British and the American, and even the German government still work to find the families that these pieces belong to.
Well, that's good that they're still trying to find them and get the art back to the rightful owners, because that was a big problem during war times. I mean, everyone's stuff was stolen, passed around, and it's still not given back to a lot of people.
No, and there was actually just an article just within the last 2 or 3 days. I can't I want to say that the painting is in Portugal, and there's a family that's in the US saying, well, that painting belonged to, you know, their great grandfather or something. And there just was a lot, they was just decided on that the painting's not coming back to them. It's staying in I think it's Portugal. But there's, you know, the very famous Klimt paintings. There was a whole movie about that, The Woman in Gold, I think it was called. But there have been stories of people walking into a gallery and like going, like, oh my God, I remember that painting when I was a child. And, you know, they have to have the proof and have all this stuff, but they ended up giving art back to people and that's the way they found it.
That's so crazy. Well, thank you, Rose. We appreciate you saving all the art that we love today. And I love those videos in the Louvre. Me and Giuseppe were watching them, saying that they're amazing. The views.
Yeah, I need to post that video again. I'll post that one later.
Repost. All right, next question.
So the next question is, what was the code name of Marie-Madeleine Fourcade? And it's an animal.
All right. So this lady was named after an animal. She was fighting in the French resistance. What do you think you would call a French woman, fighting in the French resistance? I'm trying to think of what I would call a French woman fighting the resistance.
Something a little tough.
Yeah, something strong. What's a strong animal? Tigre. Little tiger thing, action going on. Let's see, what else can I think of? Strong animals. Bears. Bears are strong. What animals do you guys think this French woman was named after? She was fighting in the French resistance. What animal would you think of to nickname a woman during war times? Obviously, you're probably better than I am at this. Wombat. I like wombat. No idea how to say that in French, but I really like that word.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that was in French.
We're going to have to Google Translate that one. Wombat, Danielle. Anybody else want to throw out some animals? Maybe a bird, you know? She could be sending messages. They use birds for sending messages. I think a wombat's good at both those things, actually. Wombats fly. Do wombats fly? Am I wrong?
I have no idea.
I love that you're just telling the truth right now. We don't have those in Portland.
No. It's kind of like all of our medical talk we keep doing, other newest episodes we've been recording lately. We get into, I don't know.
We talk about things that we don't know. We do know about history and creativity, but doctors and animals, not so much.
Not so much.
I agree. Tiger is, I think that's a pretty powerful animal for war times. All right. So it's between wombat or tiger. What do you think, Claudine?
It was actually hedgehog.
Hedgehog.
Because it was, you know, the hedgehogs are like little, but they look kind of, you know, they look kind of sweet and nice, but then they have that exterior that looks, you know, they're kind of scary and tough because, you know, you don't really want to go and bite one because of all the little, you know, prickly things they have. But she was just 27 years old when she had met an intelligence officer named Georges Lestraud, and they shared a similar view of their issues with France's passive look at fascism that was starting to spread through Europe. And she was not very happy about that. So he kind of convinced her to get into the fight, into the resistance. And then he ended up getting arrested. And so then he kind of told her, you know, you kind of need to take this over and, you know, be the leader for this. And she ended up doing that. And she recruited more than 1,000 spies, pilots, couriers, all of this stuff that would help her take pass messages all over. And because she was a woman, she was able to use, I think, some of that, mystique against them. And when the Germans kind of finally, found her and kind of cornered her and they were going to arrest her, she said, oh, well, can I at least take a bath first? And they said, oh, okay. And the German soldiers went outside to smoke. And when they did that, she turned on the water and then she snuck out and then got out of there and it got to Lyon to a safe house. So they didn't get her.
She got away just from turning on a bath. That's pretty wild. Like,
yeah, because they, just saying, can I take a bath before I go?
I mean, that was nice. The German soldiers let her bathe before they murdered her.
Yeah, yeah, but since she escaped, so they didn't get her.
Well, it worked. Hedgehog.
It did work.
Hedgehog. I like it. Good guesses, guys. Pigeon, hedgehog, tiger. I'm still going with tiger.
So the next one is, what was the life calling of Hélène Studer? And I posted, if you saw my stories, I posted a picture of her, and there's it's very evident what she was.
Do we get like multiple choice? Can we get like A, B, C?
Sure. Let's see. We could say A. She was a chef or a nun or a swimmer.
All right. I like these. I'm better at multiple choice. I'm a very good test taker when I have multiple choice. So, swimmer, nun. What was my other choice?
A chef or a nun?
Chef or a nun. All right, guys, what do you think her life calling was? She was saving people during war times, but her actual job was a chef, a swimmer, or a nun. What do we think? Swimmer can be a job. That is a job. Ask Michael Phillips. He's a Baltimore boy like myself. Phyllis said nun. Anyone else got guesses? Oh, Danielle remembers your stories. The nun picture. Somebody's been watching some stories. I think that Danielle is the winner because she was paying attention to the stories.
Yes, Danielle and Phyllis both said nun. Good job, ladies.
Yes.
Gold star. So, yeah, she was actually a nun at the St. Vincent de Paul in Metz. And in 1939, she would use a truck, and she would just drive around and pick up wounded soldiers, take them back, help nurse them back into shape. And, you just can't, I just imagine this little lady in this, this little truck.
This nun driving this truck, saving people.
Yeah. So Sister Helene.
Yes. Helen.
There's another one about her later on. So there'll be more info.
Yeah. Keep that Helen in your head. She did other cool things too.
Yes.
All right. Nun saving lady during the French Resistance. What about our next question?
How old was Simone Seguin when she joined the Resistance?
All right. So Simone joined the Resistance. I'm guessing she was probably very young or very old because we're supposed to be shocked by the age.
Yeah.
So do you have any guesses about how old Simone was? She's a young lady, old lady, joining the French Resistance, saving France against the Nazis. What
and
age?
She's actually in one of the pic when you made our little ad, our little thing for the Facebook post. She's one of those pictures.
I had someone was commenting about that. He's like, that's who that is. That's who that is. I thought that was cool that he knew.
Yeah. She's kind of she kind of is the poster child if you look up photos.
Is she the one with like the gun and the hat?
Yeah.
She has the hat. I mean, she's beautiful and young, and she's holding a giant gun. So let's go with young ages. I'm going to guess like 15. That's my guess. People were getting married at that age. Why not join the Resistance at 15?
She wasn't sick, though.
Yeah. 14 years old. I'm with Danielle. I'm going super young. As young as they can pick up a gun and like fight. A lot of kids were involved. I feel like I would really like to know the true number of women who were involved in some way. Because, I mean, there's 1,000 men, over 1,000 men. Yeah. What exactly did they do? Like, how are they considered war heroes exactly?
Yeah. There's, I don't know. I think I know a few of you have seen this. There's a TV show. It's a French TV show called The French Village. And I think at one point maybe it was on Netflix or something. I have it on this one app that you could get French TV shows on. But it was really fantastic because it showed this village that was, in the Rhone region, and they ended up it was right before the war started, and then it goes basically through the entire time of the war. And it just was really interesting to see, it makes you really think about the questions and the things that people had to decide to do during that period of time, to how to save their family and what to do. And it's fascinating to look at it, and you see everything from the person that's, this one woman that can't take it anymore. She basically leads up the resistance for the area. And then there's, the man that, has this sawmill, and he's selling, lumber to the Germans so he can keep his business going. And it's a really, really, really good show if you ever come across it.
And what's it called? The Village?
It's called The French Village.
The French Village. I'll have to check that out, because it basically gives you an idea of what it was like during war times, what everyone was doing to survive. All right, we got some good guesses. We got 14, 16, 18. My guess is 15. What's our answer, Claudine?
She was 16.
16.
Yeah, so she was 16 years old, and her code name was Nicole Minet. And she joined the resistance and also, was there for the liberation of Paris. She killed 2 Germans and then helped capture 25 more of them. And they said that there's the picture that's, on the ad. So afterwards, you guys could all go look back. She's wearing this little hat and pair of shorts, and she's holding this big gun with a big smile on her face. But
she was basically a badass.
Yeah. So, but she, joined the FFI, and she ended up being they said that she was one of the purest fighters they ever had.
She was a born fighter.
She was a born fighter.
I mean, she kind of found her calling, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kicking ass, taking names and kicking asses. Catherine said you either resisted or slept with a Nazi. I think that, or you hid a lot of hiding.
Yeah.
Yep, Natalie said 16 too. Thank you, Phyllis. 16 is the winner. I can't imagine being 16 and taking Nazis hostage. Yeah. I mean, wow.
Yeah. It's a very scary idea.
Yeah. No, thank you. I was just learning how to talk to boys at that age. Claudine, do you think you can leave us a bibliography of books that you talk about? I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I got post those in the chat afterwards. There's a great book that I was reading. I think it's Les Parisiens, and it's kind of talks. And I've already picked up just in the first few chapters. I've made a list of 7 women that we need to talk about on the podcast. But
I mean, there's some
that's really interesting. Yeah, it kind of talks about both sides of it, the women that collaborated, and also a lot of the women that resisted.
Yeah, everyone was doing what they had to do to survive. But I would like to read more about all of them.
Yes, it's really great. Okay, so the next one. What exotic dancer... I try to make some of these a little easier. What exotic dancer helped spy on the Germans and smuggled out messages in her underwear?
I mean, this is basically my favorite one. She was smuggling information in her underwear, ladies. She was an exotic dancer. What was her name? I know you've heard of this woman.
Wasn't known for wearing a lot of clothes on stage.
Yeah, she was a performer.
Mostly fruit.
There were some bananas involved. I'm sure you've all at least seen a picture of her.
Yes. I think this one everyone's going to know.
Yes. Yeah. I'm obsessed with her.
Charo.
I mean, wrong time. Same idea.
Was Charo born then? She probably was.
Yeah, she's looks great, but she's 1,000 years old.
Yeah. I just remember on the Love Boat, reruns of the Love Boat when Charo was on.
I just recently saw her as a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race for this year.
Oh boy.
She was really good on that too. Snuck it in a pineapple.
So it was Jospehine. It was because she would be up on stage, and nobody's going to suspect her of overhearing talks between some Germans and German collaborators, and so she would be up on stage and she'd hear these conversations. So she'd jot down some notes of what they were saying, and she'd hide them in her underwear to when she left, because nobody would find them, and then she would pass on the notes.
She must have really good hearing, because I'm imagining her dancing, you have to remember how to dance, even though it's not that much dancing. It's probably just more like shaking your butt. But also she's like naked and there's all these like Nazis, and then she's taking in information like, that's a lot.
Yeah. And she, we talked about it in the podcast. It'll probably come out in probably, I don't know, probably about 2 months maybe, about that she actually, you know, in the US, we've known of the USO. I think it's a USO tour when, you know, Bob Hope would go and visit the troops and, you know, sing and stuff. Well, she started doing that, and France didn't have anything like that. And she actually started doing that on her own. And she would go to all of these different, you know, to all these different bases and kind of cheer on the American and English and French soldiers. And I'm sure they were probably very happy to see her dancing with her.
I was going to say, naked lady with bananas sounds very de-stressing. Yes. Catherine, I like it. Is that a banana in your pocket? A message for me. That's a good one. I like it. All stressful. I think I'd be more stressed out to strip for people than to steal spy messages. But she did both. She's an amazing woman.
Yeah, I think I would be too.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
Okay, the next one. What was Rose Valland's very special gift that allowed her to do what she did?
All right. Rose Valland had a gift, guys. She's the one that saved all the art from the Germans.
Yeah. And here I found, I have this. This is her book, actually. The book she wrote. It's all in French, but it's the book she wrote. And look at, here's a picture of how, isn't she? Well, I always get this wrong. Look how cute she is.
Cameras are backwards. She's adorable.
So
also,
cute.
I love your nail color. Great color. And I'm a fan of her hat.
It's very, my nails are very grown out, but yeah, this is, where's this other picture? That this is what her very special gift led to. Where is it?
Oops, Danielle's right. I'm talking about her. I just threw out that name. Did I mention it? I didn't mention what the gift was. I just said she had a special gift.
Yeah.
What is the gift that she had, guys, that could help her save art? She was sending all the art. Mm-hmm. Very sweet and unassuming. That actually is a very good gift to have. Mm-hmm. Sweet and unassuming.
I could pretty much read it in French. I could read much better in French than I could speak it, actually.
We need to give Claudine a French passport right now. I mean, look at her reading these. She's a national treasure. All right, guys. Danielle. Yes.
So she had a photographic memory, and she would remember, and she'd also just remember everything. So she'd remember everything she overheard. They didn't know she could speak German. So, if you've all listened to the podcast and you already know kind of her backstory, but she was working in the Jeu de Paume, which was the depot, basically, which is in the Tuileries, that you can still go there now. It's kind of a photography museum. It's more of a modern photography museum now. And if you go in there, like I wanted to go in there, and it's completely, the inside's totally been redone, obviously, since. But they didn't know she spoke German. So they'd come in there every day and talk about, where they're sending this and where they're sending that and what they want. And she literally could remember every single thing. And then she'd go home, and she had just piles of notebooks. And can you see that on there? So this is what she would do. She'd go home, and she'd fill in everything, the number, who the artist was, what the art was, where it came from. Like a lot of times, like the family, like this came from the Rosenberg Gallery, where it was going, what was the number of the crate, everything. And because of that list, that's why 60,000 pieces of art came back to France.
Gosh, I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. This woman, wow. I think that's such a gift to have a photographic memory.
Yeah. Yeah. She would take like carbons out of the garbage and take those home and, basically translate them. And she just was so unassuming. I mean, the picture I showed of her was, so cute, but a lot of the pictures of her are just, very, much more dowdy, not, she's not going to stand out in a crowd. And so that really worked to her advantage.
Yeah. She was just tiny little cutesy cute in her hat. Saving the world, saving the French art world.
Yeah.
One artwork at a time, art piece.
I love her.
How can you not? How can you not?
Yeah. Okay, next one. Which entertainer went from performing for Germans to helping break Jewish prisoners out of jails and camps?
All right, so she's performing for the Germans, and then all of a sudden she's breaking out Jewish people from, I'm assuming, concentration camps and prisons.
Not Jospehine.
She switched sides, guys, or maybe she was doing both. She was a double agent. Actually, she wouldn't be working for the Germans, really. She was just trying to make a living, as we all are right now. Roma guesses Edith. We always say that wrong, don't we?
As my French teacher said, Edith.
Edith, but they don't pronounce the T. They're not good at that. Edith.
Like we all know her as Edith.
Edith. I like saying that word. That's a good word in the American way, the English way. So who was performing and then saving people by night? She was on stage and then she was saving the prisoners, guys. I mean, it really could be either because they both were performers and they both were very much involved in the resistance. Do you think they were friends in real life?
I don't know. It's so funny. Like so many of these, like we've talked about from the podcast of like at one point I need to do like a chart of a 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Because some of these women, especially the artists, you know, when we talked about Suzanne and Victorine and how, you know, they all were kind of around at the same time, but you really don't see any mention of them together.
Yeah.
So, you know, did they, were they all like hanging out? You know, we're Edith and Jospehine talking about the best way to attach notes into your panties or
your bananas.
Yeah.
I would just love to, like, if they all became friends. I just want to see them all at like an apéro together, just like exchanging ideas. Catherine, Edith was a singer, so she was on stage singing for people. That's
it was Edith. She was really criticized during the war because she was performing in these different clubs. One of them was actually called La Vie en Rose, was one of the clubs. And she was performing there, and Germans and collaborators would come there. She ended up becoming like really big in Germany. And so she actually went on a tour to Berlin. And a lot of people, you know, in France weren't very happy with her for what she was doing, but she kind of made it up because she would go to these places and she'd work it out with different, you know, resistance fighters to go in and, you know, she'd be on stage and it would be a good distraction for them to break people out of the prisons.
That's really smart. She was the distraction.
Yeah.
I agree with Catherine. That would make a really good Housewives of the Resistance.
Housewives of the Resistance.
Housewives of the Resistance. I'd watch that show. Let's get that.
It'd probably be a lot less Botox and
be more like prostitution and saving people.
Yeah. And
more exotic dancing.
You'd have the one that everybody loves to hate, Coco Chanel.
Yeah.
That's just all right, next question. Who used Rose Valland's records to find the stolen art? All
right. So another woman used Rose Valland's records to
it wasn't women. It was just a
person.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm giving too much away.
So did she pretend to be a German sympathizer? We're talking about Edith. Did she pretend?
I think that she just was performing on stage. I don't think I haven't come across any records of her being like a collaborator doing things, you know, like Coco did and, you know, sleeping with them and hanging out with them but George Clooney. Yeah.
Let's just talk about George Clooney. We're going into a different subject.
We're going to change subject now to George Clooney.
George Clooney was involved in the answer to this question, guys. What about Colette, Claudine? What was Colette doing during the resistance?
Well, Colette did, you know, her third husband was German or was Jewish. And he ended up getting, you know, in the podcast, we talk about how he ended up getting, like, they came in the middle of the night and took him. And Colette worked, you know, she knew a lot of people and she worked her way up until the wife of the German ambassador was a friend of hers or a fan of hers. And so she ended up being able to get in touch with her. And then she was able to get him released.
Good friends in high places.
Yeah, but Colette kind of more was just like wanted to stay in, the Palais Royal and write all day. She kind of didn't really want to be,
involved.
She really wasn't bothered with her daughter or some
life
other
in general. Yeah. Well, coming back to George Clooney, the answer to this question
it is The Monuments Men. So it is, it has a little bit of George Clooney, but The Monuments Men, if you've seen the movie with George Clooney, wonderful movie. You've got George Clooney, anything with George Clooney, and then Jean Dujardin. Yeah. Oh, he's also very dreamy. But they definitely Hollywoodized the subject a lot. Cate Blanchett plays a character based on Rose Valland. There's a few things they kind of, changed up a little. There wasn't a romantic relationship. But it's a good entry to get the gist of the situation. But you really should read the book, The Monuments Men by Robert Edsel, who that movie was based on. It's fantastic. Okay. But The Monuments Men was, if you've seen the movie, it was a whole bunch of different men brought together, and they were, it was also women. Later, there was a bunch of women in it too, and they were actually working. They were working for quite. There's still a group of them that are trying to save. When there's conflicts in the Middle East, and they're trying to save different pieces of art. But they put together. It was British and American and even French soldiers that had different ties to art world, or they were teachers that went in there, and but they used her notes. They took her notes and went and said, okay, we have to go to the salt mine in Austria, and with her notes, they were able to find all these things. They never would have found them if it wasn't for the
photographic mememory of hers saved the day.
Yeah
I need to read the book. It sounds fascinating.
It's really great. There's a documentary called The Rape of Europa that I think it's actually on Amazon right now. I've seen it a billion times, but it's a documentary, and that's really great and has a bunch of stuff about Rose in there too, and The Monuments Men.
Netflix, guys, we can learn on there too.
Yeah, I've watched that a million times. All right, the next question is, which wife worked alongside her husband, changing her appearance and smuggling weapons and messages out in a baby buggy?
All right, so she was changing her appearance. She was putting messages in the baby buggy, or the, what would you call that in today's world? The
stroller.
I want to call it the poussette, because that's the French word for it. Stroller, the stroller.
I like the pram. The pram.
Pram. That's the British way, right? Pram. We know all the words for stroller now, guys, but do you know who was hiding the messages?
That includes our French lesson today.
Poussette. I learned that from my au pair days. All right, guys. Who do we think was struggling? Messages. Bassinet. Oh, yeah, Bassinet.
Here's a little picture of her.
And a photo of her. Does anybody recognize that lady? She was dressing up and smuggling messages. Dangerous.
Oh, Bassinet. That's another one. Yes, that's a good one.
And once again, none of these ladies got any credit from Charles de Gaulle, eh?
Mm-hmm. She got invited to the party, but it was only because her husband was there.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Always because of the husband. I feel like this is...
Yeah. She actually just recently died.
Jesus, she lived a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 101 years old.
Those are some good genes right there. 101. All right, who is it? We have no idea. So
it was Cecile Rol-Tanguy, and her husband, Henri, he was huge in the resistance. And I'm actually in my newsletter on Wednesday. It's going to come out. I'm going to have a whole thing about the Musée de la Libération. And it's also part of the museum is actually dedicated to him, and also Leclerc. And so she ended up, from a very early age, her parents were communists, and they, from a very early age, she learned how to stand up and be against things. And so then she ended up meeting Henri, and she was like, oh, well, no, I want to do this too. So she would hide down in the catacombs, and, they couldn't really be together, and they had code names that they were changing all the time. And, she changed her name so that they didn't know they were husband and wife. And she'd change her disguise, and she'd go out and pass messages. And then he created this bunker, which is down below the Musée de la Libération, which you could actually go down. The museum is free to go to, but if you buy a ticket, you could go down below, but it's only at specific times, but it goes way deep down into underground. And that's where they were, creating these messages and pamphlets. But he died in 2002. She just died in May at 101 years old. And at one point, the president offered her the highest rank of the Legion of Honor award, and she didn't want to take it because she was so upset because they've never really recognized the women of the resistance like they should. Mm-hmm. But then she finally decided she would, but only on the behalf of all the women.
That's so sweet. I love her. I love her even more. Also, I love that she survived World War II. She lived to be 101. I mean, imagine everything she saw. Wow.
Yeah, she just died in May.
That's wow. I need to go to this museum. Cheryl, I've never been. Where exactly is it?
Oh my God, it's so fascinating. And it kind of, it's done in a whole timeline. So, you first start to go through and it's the days before the war. And I mean, I was just telling Phyllis and Natalie yesterday, I was like, you literally go through every emotion there is. Like, you go through and you're just like, stressed, and then you're sad. And then here's all these, things of all the Jewish people that were deported. And then, you go through all this and you're just like in tears. And then you get to the end of it and it's all these videos of people celebrating in the street. And then you're happy because, it's like you literally, it's so well done that it makes you feel that. Or maybe that's just me because I stop and look at everything. But it's a really fascinating museum.
Yeah, I need to go visit. It's in the 14th. It's free. Gonna go find it out.
Yes.
Musée de Libération. Oh, across the catacombs. I've been to the catacombs. But I've not been to the Museum of Liberation.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, right across from there. And there's usually not very many people there. So
I'm gonna say there's a lot of people at the catacombs. You wait in a line for about 2 hours to go see some dead bodies. It's I've done it 3 times. Every time you visit, you want to go. First time, very interesting. Not so much anymore.
I haven't because I'm afraid there'd be rats there. So this is not going to happen.
There's no rats, maybe some ghosts, but definitely I didn't see any rats on any of my visits. I want to go to the lower level. Definitely going to go to the lower level. I'll take some pictures for you guys.
Oh, yeah. We'll go down.
All right. What's the next one?
So the next one was, how long did Rose Valland work on the restitution of looted art and possessions?
All right, so Rose Valland was working on saving all the art, but for how long? I'm guessing she continued after the war was well over.
You don't remember the podcast?
She kept going. I mean, I'm trying to help our listeners here, man.
Oh, okay.
She kept going. How many years?
You didn't lock it into your photographic memory?
Yeah, I actually have a camera for my photographic memory. It's not my mind. It's actually a digital camera. My memory
I remember all these things, but yeah, like you said, the other day I didn't realize it was Wednesday until about 10 o'clock at night. So,
I mean, COVID life. What can we say? Her whole life, Catherine. That is a very good guess. Mm-hmm. I feel like Rose was not a person who gave up easily. Mm. She was very much into the cause.
I'll find another cute little picture of her.
Catherine's got the answers. Does anybody else have any guesses? Do you think it was her whole life? Do you think it was like 10 years? What do we think? I feel like I'm going with Catherine on this one. Her whole life. Is that her hanging out with some art?
Yeah.
Very cool. Is that a picture of a cat below? I'm like seeing a cat.
It's something.
Don't know what that is.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I'm gonna go with Catherine and say her whole life. What does Claudine say?
It was her whole life. She after the war was over, then they eventually had her made her a captain in the French army and in charge of basically art. And so she would travel all over. She spent years in Germany, years in Poland, all of these different places going and trying to find the art and getting it back to where it needed to go. So she basically, it was her whole entire life.
Thank you for your honesty, Catherine. She Googled the date of her death, 1980. Very smart.
I know, it's like I mean, I was very young in 1980, but I'm just like, oh, I wish I'd known. I would have gone over there to find her.
Yes, you could have been hanging out with Rose. You and your child self.
Pass me the torch. I'll take over.
You are the monument woman. I kind of like that.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to work with them on something.
I mean, they're still going at it.
They are.
With your photographic memory, I feel like you'd be good for the cause.
There was Roma actually told me about it. There's some channel that I didn't even know we had on cable, but it was it's like the American something channel, but it has all these different shows about World War II and had some shows about Hitler, but they had this series, and I think it was like 6 or 8 episodes, and it was called Finding Nazi Treasure. And I'll see if I could find it, and I'll link it here. It was really fascinating because they talked about, of course, Rose and in one of the episodes, and how they went after French art, and then how they went after Italian art, but also like the gold and all of these different things. And the story is that the TV show is kind of like, oh, we're going to go find it. And I'm like, you didn't find it. We would have heard about it if you found it. But it's really well done. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I've heard of that show. I haven't watched it, but I'll check it out. Those good
really
American shows. 1980, guys.
1980. Okay, last question. Oh, no, second to last question. How many people did Sister Helene save, and which important figure was one of them?
All right, so our lady nun was saving lots of people. Do you have a number for how many lives she saved? And she saved someone important as well, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Someone very important. This one shocked me when you told me about this one. Mm-hmm. So cool.
I was pretty shocked when I saw who it was, too. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, they were around at the same time. What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. Sometimes, like, World War II was not actually that long ago.
No.
It feels like a very, very long time ago, but it was not really that long ago.
And right now it's the 76th anniversary of the liberation. But, last year was the 75th. And so it was talked about everywhere. And, lots of Paris people were writing all these stories and sharing them and stuff. But it does kind of bother me where it's like, it's still important, even though it's not on, a 5 or a 10 year. It's like 76 years. Stories are still important. They should still be talked about. We shouldn't be waiting for, every 5 or 10 years to talk about it.
Yeah, they kind of just skip over those in between years that don't rhyme well or go well.
Because there's probably not many of that generation left.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
The greatest generation.
The women of the resistance. So I'm going to guess she saved 2,000 people.
That is correct. 2,000.
Really? Oh, my photographic memory is kicking.
There it goes. Yeah, she saved more than 2,000 people. And of them, one of them was the future president, Francois Mitterrand.
She saved the future president of France.
Yeah, so she would smuggle them out. And she was up, in the Lorraine region, which was bouncing back and forth for so many years, over decades and decades, between Germany and France. So she was up there. At one point, she had to actually leave because they were going to arrest her. But then they decided, because she was older and in not good health, they left her alone. So she was another smart cookie.
Yeah.
Because she just kept going back to it. And she would help smuggle these people down into, more of the Free France area, including the future president.
That's so crazy. Mm-hmm. She totally changed history.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what would have happened if he never became president? Who would have became president? So many questions.
I know, so many questions. Yeah.
Sister Helen.
But I love the picture I posted of her has like the huge nun hat, like, the flying nun, with Sally Field with the huge hat. And I was just like, she just looks like so cute and sweet and stuff. And then here she is, driving a truck and saving, wounded soldiers and smuggling people out.
Kicking ass, man.
Mm-hmm.
Danielle asked, is that how she became known? Was her association with Mitterrand?
She's not really very well. She's not really very well known. It's kind of I was doing a lot of research and searching to find some names and stuff, and it's still not super easy. You have the same few names that pop up every time, but I just loved her story with her being a nun and saving a future president, I thought was pretty fascinating.
I mean, it's really cool. And I've never heard anything about that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. You think if you save the president of France, at least you get some credit.
Yeah. But I mean, it's probably maybe more people knew about it then, but
yeah.
I should actually look and see if I could find anything on his side that says that he was saved by her.
Good idea.
It probably just glances over.
Yeah. But this nun saved me when I was a kid from Hitler.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Adorable.
All right, guys. Our final question.
Yes. How are these amazing women remembered today?
So, what do you guys think? How are they remembered today? Do people talk about them? Did they get a park with their name on it? A road? Anything?
Other than our attempt to try to get them the notoriety that they need.
They got this Facebook Live, guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm going to get that Rose Valland statue made. It's going to be gigantic. Bigger than the obelisk. It's going to be huge.
We're going to do it. We're going to put it where it belongs, right?
Yes.
Right in front of the Eiffel Tower where everybody can see it.
Yeah, taller than the Eiffel Tower.
On top of the Eiffel Tower. That can be what sits on top.
There you go.
Who needs a champagne bar? All right, Danielle says, just the plaques were they brought to light. All right, what do you got to say, Claudine?
Well, it is, of course, many plaques. I just posted a thing last night about to the plaques in Paris. I always, every single time I see a plaque, I take a picture of it, and I pretty much always like come back and look them up and Google and try to find out something about them, because it's great that they remember all of those people in that way. And it's just, I kind of think they deserve more than just somebody just walking past them and not even noticing them. So I always feel like I need to stop and look, even if it's for a minute. But there are, streets. There are some streets and some squares named after these women, but that's about it. There hasn't really been a huge thing. There's no Women of the Liberation Museum in Paris. There should be.
Yeah, let's write the president. I think Macron would be on board. 2 American chicks talking about French resistance ladies.
Got a lot of things on the agenda for him.
we can make a long letter. We could write that letter today.
Yes,
we have time.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a museum. I mean, that's a great idea. We need to make this happen.
Let's
push it. The Women of the Resistance, the actual collection. Yeah, I totally agree. These women did a lot for France. They risked their lives, the same as men, even more so sometimes. Mm-hmm. And no one really talks about them. So
yeah, some of them, had children, and they basically, never saw their husband or children because they went off to go, fight the resistance, and, literally putting your life on the line because you believed, that it was for, the better good.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Claudine, you know how you get your visa. I know how I'm getting my citizenship. We're going to start the museum.
Yes.
Why?
I think so.
I mean, come on. We're interested. There should be a movie on this. Yes, exactly. I totally agree too. We need a movie.
I mean, there's a movie. It's very old. It's in black and white. It's called The Train. And I think it's Burt Lancaster, I believe. It really features Rose Valland. And it basically is because she did listen from the podcast. She had also noted trains, like this was on this train to this place and put into this car. The movie's pretty old, but it's really fascinating because it really gives you I would watch, this Monuments Men is amazing, and you've got George Clooney and all the good eye candy, but like if you really want to see The Train is a really fantastic movie.
The Train.
So,
all right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again. We had such a good time chatting with you as always, and we will do this again in another 2 weeks. What are we talking about next, Claudine?
Well, I think I had this idea that I think we should do one about Midnight in Paris.
I think that's a great idea. Great movie, lots of great characters.
Yes.
Why not? And
so
also,
we can have the stories of the characters from the movie.
I think it's a great idea. And it's not too late if you're not in our book club. We are reading My Life in France by Julia Child. And we are having our meeting for that next weekend. So if you want to chat about that with us, you can read the book in 1 week. It's a really good book. So I'm sure you could read it fast. And we reached 10,000 downloads for the podcast last night, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for chatting with us. We appreciate you. And we're so excited that the podcast is growing and becoming successful. And it's because of people like you who listen and care. So thank you.
Yeah, 10,000. I couldn't believe that. Amazing.
Yes, we are very excited about that. And we don't plan to stop anytime soon. So we will keep bringing you the best information that Paris has to offer. And we will chat with all of you again next week. But feel free to send Claudine questions about any of the information we talked about today. And we hope to see you in our book club next weekend as well.
Yeah. And go Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah. All right, guys. Bye. And it's just in time for Coco to come in.